I am Babla Jonathan, and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. In our top stories in this edition of the news, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, says 855,000 children are out of school or remain out of school in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon as a result of the deepening Anglophone crisis, and UNICEF is warning that without urgent action, without the commitment of all parties involved in the crisis to protect education, the future of the children is at risk. In this edition of the news, we'll also continue with our series on risk zones across the Republic of Cameroon, and we're going to be taking you to Idea, Kongsamba and Boko in the littoral region of Cameroon, where inhabitants are occupying several risk zones. And we'll also be talking about the situation in the northwest region of the country, where things have continued deepening. Stay with us. We begin this newscast in the regional capital of the west region of the Republic of Cameroon, Bafoussam, where the presidential candidate who came second in the 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon and was later arrested and detained for over 9 months in the Konigi maximum security prison in Yaoundé, Professor Maurice Kamto, was received by a huge crowd of militants of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political parties, supporters and sympathizers of the politician and of course his political party. In Bafoussam, a huge crowd turned out today to receive Professor Maurice Kamto, who was on his way to Ngwache to visit the site that was recently hit by a landslide that left 43 persons dead and enormous material damage. Professor Maurice Kamto was received in the town of Bafoussam by many supporters, sympathizers, and of course militants of the CRM political party. The visit of Professor Maurice Kamto to Ngwache turned out to be a massive gathering of persons in the town of Bafoussam. Professor Maurice Kamto, who was arrested and detained after the October 7, 2018 presidential election and released after 9 months of detention alongside other leaders of the CRM political party, allies and militants of that political party. Others are still in detention, others are still under trial in different courts across the country. We continue now with something else to talk about. The CPDM political party in the Meme division, southwest region of the country. The party is battling to quench the flames of an internal conflict that is rogging the party in that part in the southwest region of the country. And during the celebration of the 37th anniversary of President Paul Biya's accession to power in the town of Kumba, the Kumba 1 section president of the CPDM, Tabot Lawson, called on all militants of the party to work together in order to revive the party badly affected by internal squabbles. Details in this report by Hemini Luga.
Sympathizers of the Cameroon's People's Democratic Movement Party in the Meme division of the Southwest region were once very united with goals heading towards one direction. Today, the bonding factor seems to have varied as backbiting, slandering has gained ground, splitting the party members gradually. As it's now, the party sympathizers and supporters cry losing all 5 councils in the Mama division if unity doesn't resurface. While the party members begin to worry about the welfare and future of the party, the atmosphere in the area since the outbreak of the socio-political crisis hasn't made things favorable for CPDM's active members. Few political gatherings are only held at the divisional headquarters, Kumba, and this, according to Tabot Lawson, Meme 1 Section's president, the situation isn't helping matters. It's clear if nothing is done, the CPDM fears losing hold of the center in the Meme division of the Southwest region. The party's active members outlined the state of discomfort while commemorating the 1982 November 6th ascension to power of the party's president, Paul Biya Barthelemy B. Mfondo.
And CPDM militants in the crisis-hit northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon want President Paul Biya to hasten the implementation of recommendations of the major national dialogue in order to quickly move towards an end to the Anglophone crisis that has been pulling on for close to 3 years. Today, they spoke during the celebration of the 37th anniversary of President Paul Biya's assertion to power in the Kambe in the northwest region of the country. Details with for me, Armstrong Sander.
The New Deal at 37 coinciding with the 1-year anniversary of the 7-year mandate of greater opportunities of President Paul Biya means nature concurring with the vision and mission of the right man at the helm of Cameroon, according to CPT and party supporters. In the midst of the Anglophone crisis, militants of the ruling CPDM party in Kambe, Donga Mantung division of the northwest region of Cameroon, displayed in number and turnout that the successes of the New Deal at 37 overshadows challenges it did faced. Led from the Kambe main town to the community hall, CPDM party supporters and sympathizers through the Donga Mantung 1 section president of the party called on their brothers and sisters in bushes to drop their arms and embrace normal life.
I'm praying that they should realize themselves and come back home. But the worst thing I want to see is when my brothers and sisters are being killed because they're in the bushes. I want them to stay home with us peacefully. Let's look how to develop Cameroon. Cameroon is still a young country that we can develop. So we're praying that they should come back home. Let's put our heads together and develop the country. Because I don't want to see bloodshed. I want my brothers to be home. We are celebrating today because we belong.
The Anglophone crisis has shattered and changed the order of activities in several villages in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, and these supporters and sympathizers are conscious of that. Their lone and major prayer is transmitted through the section presidents of the party for Donga Mantung 1, TAMFU Mingala Gerard.
Cameroonians will be calling on the president to implement the recommendations that we forwarded to him from the major national dialogue as soon as possible, so that peace will return to the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon.
CPT and party supporters and sympathizers say the security challenges of the New Deal at 37 cannot overshadow the successes it recorded in several other aspects of national life. They in the Anglophone regions of Cameroon believe Paul Biya in power at 37 would have even been better commemorated in the northwest and southwest regions if the Anglophone crisis was resolved.
Several hundreds of thousands of children remain out of school in the northwest and southwest regions of the country as a result of the socio-political and security crisis hitting those 2 regions for close to 3 years today, according to the last report of the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF. 855,000 children are out of school as a result of the fact that schools in many parts of the 2 Anglophone regions are not operational, and many of the children are living in fear, and UNICEF is calling on all parties involved in the crisis to take urgent action and to be committed to protect education in order to avoid further jeopardizing the future of the children. Details by Innocent Nazi.
Marizi Mercado, United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF spokesperson, at the UN headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, Monday, November 4, 2019, stated that around 1.9 million people, about half of whom are children, are estimated to be in need of humanitarian aid, an increase 80% compared to 2018, and an almost 15-fold increase since 2017. Still in the Monday report, UNICEF says the 3 years violence and instability in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon have left more than 855,000 children out of school. Mercado said thousands of youngsters are living in fear in the Anglophone regions, and even teachers have not been teaching. 9 out of 10 primary schools and nearly 8 in 10 secondary schools remain closed or non-operational in the troubled northwest and southwest regions since start of the school year in September, according to the UN spokesperson. UNICEF revealed it has been helping community-run activities to provide educational books and other learning materials for 37,000 school-aged children, as well as broadcasting literacy and numeracy lessons by radio. According to the organization, some 529 security incidents have been recorded in the Anglophone regions to hamper the works of humanitarians. Mercado said access has improved slightly in the southwest region, which has enabled them conduct more missions during the second quarter of the year compared to the first, and to reach places that have not been accessible for a year or more.
Amid the deepening socio-political and security crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon and a plethora of underdevelopment challenges, the people of Bakassi, notably Nigerian nationals living in that part of the southwest region of Cameroon, have received support and encouragement from the Consul General of Nigeria to the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The Consul General visited them yesterday, as Derek Jato reports.
The Nigerian Consul General for the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon is sailing to Edabatu subdivision in the Bakassi Peninsula of Ndian Division to install the executive members of the Nigerian Union. Edabatu is an island, and this is the first time His Excellency Ibrahim Mohammed Bashi will be meeting the estimated 25,000 Nigerians living in Edabatu. This is Edabatu subdivision in Bakassi, and the reception reserved by the Nigerian community for their Consul General is hilarious. After being welcomed by the divisional officer for Edabatu subdivision, which was preceded by in-camera audiences, His Excellency Ibrahim Mohammed Bashi, Nigerian Consul General for the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, came out for the installation of the Union Executive. Headed by Effiong Okun Effiong as President, the Nigerian Consul General said his office counts on them, and for the Union to succeed, all the executive members must work as a team.
I want you to work hand in hand with the authorities, with the traditional rulers, with the men of God, with the elders in the community, to bring sanity under your leadership. Thank you very much.
In his inaugural speech, the Union President Effiong Okun reassured all that he is at the helm of the Union, so that together they can be able to right the wrongs for the betterment of the Nigerian population in Edabatu. Earlier, the Nigerian Consul General handed a gift to the divisional officer for Edabatu subdivision as a thank you gesture to the Cameroon government for hosting his people in love, peace and unity. Before leaving Edabatu subdivision, the Nigerian Consul General was decorated in a traditional outfit, a show of his people identifying with him and him identifying with his people.
And in our series on the risk zones across the Republic of Cameroon, I told you in the headlines that will take you to Edea and Konsamba in the littoral region of the country, where inhabitants are occupying several risk zones, and experts have said those zones at the risk of a landslide that could occur at any time. And of course, that will lead to devastating consequences. And the people have continued to occupy those risk zones for several years. Details in this report.
After the landslide effect on inhabitants of Ngwashe in Bafoussam, West region of Cameroon, several other Cameroonians live with the realities of an eventual Ngwashe scenario. One of such areas is the Domaine Sanaga neighborhood of Edea in the Sanaga Maritime Division of the littoral region of Cameroon. The area was officially declared a risk zone since a landslide in 2011 that left one person dead and several others severely injured. The area is constantly being eroded and poses the risk of sinking in the nearest future. In Konsamba, in the Mongo division of the same region, inhabitants of Cité de Demon are conscious of an imminent landslide. Their reason for a continuous stay is financial, as they complain of the lack of means to relocate.
C'est la pauvreté qui nous fait faire ça. Sinon, on pouvait acheter de l'eau dans de meilleures conditions.
Others say they worked hard and for long to be able to save, purchase their lands and build, and leaving their area for them is a difficult choice.
Il y a des glissements partout. On a une autre fois, il y a eu glissement. Ma voisine s'est retrouvée dans la cuisine.
Most of the inhabitants say the deadly Bafoussam landslide gave them enough reasons to vacate their areas, and their lone plea is for the government of the Republic of Cameroon to facilitate their evacuation. Be it in the north, east, west or south of the Cameroonian Triangle, several other Cameroonians occupy areas considered as high-risk zones.
And another area where inhabitants are occupying risk zones is Mboko, here in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. The houses there are built haphazardly on risk zones that are at the risk of landslides, according to experts. Details with Immaculate Fogwe.
The recent Ngwashe landslide that claimed 43 lives and injured several persons has now become an eye-opener for most persons living in risk zones. A case in point is Mboko, located in the Douala 3 subdivision. Several houses could be seen suspended on a cliff. Though aware of the risk involved, inhabitants present financial difficulties as reasons why they decide to live there. I have been living here for the past 14 years. When I just arrived in the neighborhood, the situation wasn't this bad. It is after persons indiscriminately dug up the earth for reclamation. I am very scared living in such a risky area. After seeing what happened in Ngwashe on television, getting a house here in Douala is not easy. Reason why, if we are to build even on a tree, that is what we will do. The Mboko neighborhood was lastly visited by administrative officials in 2010 after a child of about 18 years old was killed by a landslide.
In the report coming up next, Smanjikan Gebre shows us the deplorable living conditions of Cameroonians in the hinterlands.
Electricity poles and high-tension cables lying on the ground. Houses abandoned by their inhabitants. We are in Behak village, found under Ndobian subdivision of the Nkam division. The village that is made up of farmers is in dire need of basic social amenities. Notwithstanding their agricultural prowess, Behak is in dire need of a motorable road that is supposed to have been handed to the authorities, owing to the fact that construction works that started on April 8, 2019 were to be over by July 8, 2019. Unfortunately, the road is still a big hindrance to movement. People die here every day because of no road. We don't have cars passing in the village. Apart from the absence of a road, Behak has been without potable drinking water for over 2 years now. They have to manage with water they fetch from a stream. Behak is also in total blackout, though electricity poles and cables could be seen crisscrossing the village. Look at these houses. No lights. The ropes you see are empty without electricity supply. Though lucky to have a befitting structure lodging their technical college, all children have moved to the town because the school has no teachers. Another village found under Ndobian subdivision that is lacking social amenities is Bangope. The lone health unit constructed for the population of Bangope has now been transformed into a smoking ground, and at times women are being raped by unknown men. Whenever any inhabitant of Bangope is sick, they are transported to Bafang. No nurse is here to help us. When we are sick, no one to give us drugs. We don't even have means to go to Bafang, which is the nearest town. We die on our way to treat ourselves. Because of the lack of doctors, inhabitants are forced to buy drugs by the roadside. I am in Bangope to help out because it's been a while doctors don't attend to them. Many people die on their way as they are being transported to Bafang. The people of Behak and Bangope are now waiting on the prompt reaction of the authorities to remedy their sufferings.
Authorities in Burkina Faso have said at least 37 people have been killed and 60 wounded in an attack on a military or mining company convoy in the country. 5 buses carrying staff of Canadian firm TAMFU were ambushed yesterday about 40 kilometers from the eastern town of Bungu, according to reports. And a military escort vehicle was reportedly struck by an explosive device before gunmen opened fire. It is said to be one of the deadliest or the third deadliest attack on the TAMFU staff in the 15 months. Burkina Faso has been wrecked by Islamic insurgency that has killed hundreds of persons in recent years. That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thanks for staying with us. We are receiving a legal mind. Barrister TAMFU Richard is a member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations. Barrister, you're welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Babila, and thank you for having me today.
We're going to start with the case of a journalist who has been detained for several weeks now in the southwest region of the country. Samuel Wazizi of CMTV. He was accused of collaboration with separatist fighters, circulating their messages, offering his farm for a camp of separatist fighters. These accusations, which he however rejected, and the Fako High Court has rejected a habeas corpus appeal for Samuel Wazizi. What do you think about this other case of a journalist arrested and detained for several weeks incommunicado?
Mr. Bebla, it's a very, very difficult situation for a lawyer to interpret such a scenario, because we all know that criminal investigations, or whenever a crime has been committed, we have a criminal procedure code which we have to follow and implement the provisions of the law. You see, when a person is arrested and you tell me that he is kept incommunicado for some months, I really ask myself whether we are in a state of law or we are in a lawless state, because there is no provision in the criminal procedure code which is in force since 2005 that gives such a provision to keep somebody without communicating or without having access to lawyers. I quite remember the challenges which the colleagues who are following the case had, because they could not refer any information to the family. I don't even know if at this junction in time they know exactly where
his whereabouts remains unknown.
Exactly. So you see, it really baffles me, because somebody like that who maybe will benefit from the provisions of the court, from provisions of the code, be it the police custody or a remand in custody or an imprisonment warrant, we should know where he is. And now, when an application by way of habeas corpus and the judge just rejects without producing the person, to me, I think something is wrong, and the only appellation or the only thing we can give to such an incident is that we're in a lawless state. Because if actually we're to follow the law, you can't keep somebody for months without communication. Which provisions of the law? So,
and the Fako High Court, according to Barrister Nkia, who is the lead defense counsel of Samuel Wazizi, in Samuel Wazizi's case, says that the Fako High Court said the person who filed the habeas corpus application did so without evidence of his detention, with no evidence of his detention.
But the main purpose of the habeas corpus is when it's an emergency procedure, when, for example, you think somebody is illegally arrested and detained and you don't know where he is. So I think what the judge sitting for that habeas corpus application ought to have done will have been maybe to instruct the authorities of the suspected areas of detention, because I think maybe in that application the lawyer could not say with exactitude where his client was. Maybe the judge, if actually he was there to implement the law, would have been in the best position to request that he be produced. I think that's the only thing that application entails. Produce the person, and then let's see if his arrest and detention are legal, and if it is, the judge rules on it. So I think the High Court judge just gives a very flimsy excuse, because they are not in any position to respect the rights of people. And to me, it's deplorable for the lawyers who are into the case, because I really ask myself how they are able to comfort his family. Because
and this is something that has been happening again and again in Cameroon, a country where authorities have repeatedly said it's a law-abiding nation. It's a country that respects the laws. But from what we are seeing with this particular case of a journalist who is arrested and kept for weeks, nobody knowing where knowing his whereabouts, and of course what is happening to him, and information circulating here and there that he's dead, information that EQUINOXE television could not, however, independently confirmed that he has been killed, and so on and so forth. What do we say about the independence of the judiciary and so on?
You can't say that's a state of law, because in a state of law we have rules and procedures which we respect. there is a law to arrest somebody. There is a law to detain that person. So when you arrest somebody without no warrant, you don't give access to his family or to his lawyer. You can't say you are in a law state. That's a barbaric state. And you see, that's the more reasons why of recent lawyers had to step up a bit to say that, okay, we can't live in a society where human rights are being violated here and there and nothing is being done. I don't understand how we have a criminal procedure code in place which stipulates how somebody should be arrested and maybe detained, and you witness a situation where somebody is arrested and then keep in isolation. You don't even know where he is. You keep asking yourself questions if he has been killed or whatsoever. I think this is a barbaric state, and we the lawyers, we still have to continue insisting that human rights should be respected in Cameroon. We can't live as if Cameroon was a country on its own. You see what just befell us when the AGOA program was cancelled. Cameroon was
the US decided to exclude Cameroon over gross violation of human rights.
That's an enormous loss from our cooperations with the Americans. Why must it only be in Cameroon where human rights are violated systematically? As a lawyer, you can't even tell maybe a client or somebody that, okay, in Cameroon this is what actually obtains, because things are done arbitrarily. You don't know whether there's real separation of powers. You see, everybody is left to the mercy of the persons who govern this country. So if they decide to arrest you today, they arrest you and nobody has access to you. So I think, to me, that's a lawless state, and it's really very sad to me.
And the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, has released another report indicating that 855,000 children remain out of school in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, while we've been receiving information from the authorities that things are returning to normal, the situation is under control, and so on.
Well, this situation really saddens me, because UNICEF is giving another alarming warning. We should not sacrifice the rights of children to education over something which could be resolved in 30 minutes if the authorities that be were conscious and there for the people. Today, children are not going to school for 3 years. Nobody can be happy. UNICEF is just blowing another alarm to tell you that this is the degrading situation in which children are finding themselves. When children don't go to school, it automatically means that you are opening a way to the prisons, because they will not be literate. They will be exposed maybe to be recruited maybe by other armed groups. Maybe the women will be sexually abused and all the like. So I think UNICEF is giving another strong call to the authorities that in any conflict, there are some specific things which we should avoid, or we should not jeopardize, we should not play with it. Education, for example, hospitals, boot camps.
And talking about the consequences of the fact that the children are not going to school, the UNICEF executive director talked about the fact that the children are more at the risk of recruitment by armed groups, child marriage, early pregnancy, and other forms of exploitation.
UNICEF is very correct. That's the logical objectivity that you can give. If you don't go to school, you're exposed. You will be automatically you become exposed to all those thoughts. So I think, to me, it's right time the authorities should step up their quest in resolving this conflict. Peace has no price. We should not take the future of children to play with it. 3 years is already much. So my continuous call is that the powers that be, and to me, I always point at the head of state, because they're the only person that can resolve this crisis. He should do the right thing. And if that right thing is done with the right persons, I think we'll find peace.
And that is why the UNICEF said there is need for urgent action and the commitment of all parties involved in the crisis to protect education, to protect the future of the children, to avoid further jeopardizing the future of these children. According to you, what are some of those major actions, urgent actions, that should be taken by who?
We have been repeatedly saying this over and over. In Cameroon, we have a head of state, we have a president, who is a supreme being, or who is a guarantor of the constitution and of the country. We are into a conflict today which they know, they are more informed than I, that in those two regions there is a group who wants to secede because maybe they think that the union into which they are is no more moving. They arrested their leader. He's in the principal prison in Yaoundé. Why not talk with that person? Use him. Talk to him. Maybe he can persuade, or he can persuade him, or for him to change his ideas. Because until we have to talk with him, I don't see this crisis coming to an end. Because even the mockery of the national dialogue that we held in Yaoundé, I think that was waste of resources. If Ayok Tabe is not put on the table to talk with, I don't see how we are moving to any lasting solution. The truth is that... Are you
saying that the head of state should negotiate with
he has to talk with him, whether he likes it or not. That's the only person, to me, in my own analysis, that bring him on the table, bring people like Mancho BBC, who is highly hurt, bring Conrad, put them to the table and then talk with them. Use them to talk to the other people who are in the diaspora to see if there could be any compromise. If not, where are we heading to? We are into a war for 3 years now. The future of children is being jeopardized. Has the war ended? To me, I say no. So we
should start by negotiating with Mancho BBC and the other Anglophone leaders who are in detention.
Exactly. That is, to me, that's the only way out. Apart from that, I don't see any solution coming out.
All right. While you're saying that the major national dialogue which took place in Yaoundé was a waste of time, a failure, yes. Some militants of the CPDM in Kambe, precisely in the Ndonga-Mantum division in North-West region, during the celebration of the 37 years of President Paul Biya's reign, called for the implementation, the fast or the quick implementation of resolutions of that, or recommendations of that event.
Mr. Babila, any normal person being in power for 37 years, I don't see what you still want to gain in the power. Is that your father's grief? Why can't you step down? When I see them jubilating, I see them like lost sheep. Instead of them, or the people who are the young bloods there, to be the ones maybe seated there, or maybe implementing all those political programs that could lead a nation, they will be sitting to say they are celebrating an anniversary of somebody who has been in power for 37 years. I think, to me, that's shameful.
We'll come back to that in a short while, Barrister. First, you said the major national dialogue was useless, a failure. Why do you
that think that was a monologue, sincerely, because CPDM militants decided to meet in Yaoundé to wine and dine. To me, that was not a dialogue. You can't say you are going for a dialogue when you have not constituted those two regions, Northwest and Southwest. I expected that those two regions would have maybe presented their representative, people who could speak for them. In their normal way of doing things, they decided to pick up some elites, which to them, they still believe that those elites still have a say. And when we look at those elites who were picked up, you see that they are all CPDM militants.
But there were top officials of the SDF, for example, the national chairman and members of parliament, senators.
You agree with me that today, all those top officials that you are talking to have no say in those two regions. The people themselves should be consulted. That is why I so much appraised the All Anglophone Conference which Cardinal Toumé tried to have before we could go to this national dialogue, so that maybe among, if it was permitted to hold that annual conference, I think Anglophones will have had a better representation for any dialogue. What was done in Yaoundé, to me, is a monologue. So it's a failure, because...
What about the recommendations that came out from there, the special status for the Northwest and Southwest, and so on, which the civilian militants in Ghana are demanding for a hasty implementation?
To me, I don't believe in it.
The implementation of the recommendations will not solve any problem?
It won't solve any problem, because you see, if you follow the events, you see that immediately after the national dialogue, SGOs and divisional officers were appointed. Just to tell you that what happened in Yaoundé is still far to come. And if you do a good census of those two regions, you understand that the only thing that can soften them is the federalist structure.
Okay.
Anything from that, I don't see it moving.
Barrister, what's your take on the 37 years of reign of President Paul Biya?
It is too much. Biya has given all that he could do. 37 is too much. Biya should step down and allow another person to take over the train from where he did. Yes, he has done, but 37 is already too much. He's tired.
What has he done? What has he not done?
Well, we are all witnessing. Okay, look at the last. This is the last mandate. I can say this is the other mandate that he's been taken. You hear hate speech from here. We have the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest, which he's unable to put a stop to it. You see whether it's tribal disputes or I don't know, because when I saw what happened in the
rise of tribalism.
Exactly. So to me, he's no more having a mastery of all these situations, and I understand, because of his overdue, he has overstayed in power, and he's tired. Let him rest. Let him allow some other person to take over and see if we can put an end to all these tensions left and right. What we need is peace at all costs.
Barrister TAMFU Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Babila.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us.